Hello! In this video, you will hear about 1.5-degree lifestyle options. In other words, options we have and changes that we need to make to help reduce our impact on climate change if we are to make 1.5-degree societies a reality. This means that you will learn about low-carbon 1.5-degree lifestyle options available to all of us, and which of these are the most impactful options based on modeling in 5 European countries. And while discussing these, I will also highlight the difference between average and our own most impactful lifestyle options. So, to begin with, just a quick reminder that we all, in addition to governments and industry, need to contribute to change and reducing humanity's climate impact. This is because about 65–70% of global greenhouse gas emissions can be traced back to households. And this means that our everyday lifestyles are really important. Also, modeling shows that even if low-carbon background changes happen, for example, renewables get integrated into the energy mix, we will not reach the 1.5-degree target without lifestyle change. Thus, the 1.5-degree lifestyle options discussed in this video are not just options available to us, but options that need to be implemented eventually by all of us. So, let us move to the lifestyle options available to us, especially those that are impactful. But first, an important note. While talking about the impact of the various lifestyle options, I'm going to talk about what is most impactful on average in 5 European countries: Germany, Hungary, Latvia, Spain, and Sweden. This can help provide us with very good guidelines as to what to focus on at the societal level. But it is important to remember that there are differences between countries, municipalities, and also individuals. So, the average can guide us, but it is always important to consider our own lifestyles for better, more specific guidance. So, let's see the averages first, calculated based on data from 5 European countries. First, a general overview of all the lifestyle options available to us, not yet divided into the 4 domains of mobility, housing, nutrition, and leisure. The picture is complex because there are many options available to us, but their impact varies, as the figure shows. Still, 3 main directions for change emerge. Most importantly, we need to change our private car-based lifestyles. Then, we need to look at how we heat our homes. And third, we need to examine our diet, what and how much of it fills our plates. So, let's take a more detailed look at these domain by domain. First, mobility, which is on average, is perhaps the most impactful domain. Considering how we move around every day, the most impactful change we can make is to become car-free or use a car as little as possible. And for that, use an electric car that is as small as possible. If you are used to driving everywhere, all the time, this may sound like a really big change. And indeed, it is. So you may want to start implementing it step by step. First, with a weekly car-free day, experimenting with public transport, cycling, joining a car-sharing network, and so on. You are likely to find that your mobility practices become more diverse as a result. Also, if we currently drive a lot, with not many other mobility options, it may be useful to consider moving closer to work and facilities, or move to a place that offers more diverse mobility options. And once we are on the topic of moving, let's consider where we move to, or in other words, let's move to the housing domain. Here, there are 3 important things to think about. First, how do we heat our homes? Which fuel or fuels do we use? As shown in the graph, the best options or most impactful changes we can make is we switch to heat pumps connected to solar panels or biomass boilers fueled with sustainably sourced biomass. Then, we need to consider how energy efficient our home is. Is it well insulated? Do we use energy sparingly? Do we use renewable electricity to satisfy our needs? So both the technology and our behavior need to be considered. And finally, how big our home is. There are various suggestions in the literature for the sustainable per capita living space, mostly around 20–30 square meters. And now that we thought about how we move around and how we live, we need to take a look at what and how much we eat. So we move on to the domain of nutrition. What can we do to reduce our nutrition carbon footprint? Again, there are 3 impactful lifestyle choices to consider. First and foremost, what do we eat? To what extent do we follow a plant-based diet? There are several ways of getting on the plant-based eating path, each with a different climate impact. First, you can go fully plant-based. In other words, go vegan. This obviously has the largest carbon footprint reduction impact. Then, with slightly less impact, you can go 80% plant-based, so still eat some animal products. And then you can also choose to be vegetarian, so not eat meat, but still eat dairy and eggs. Finally, you can decide to start with not eating certain types of meat. After our diet, it is also important to consider how much food waste we create. Any food waste, even the amount that gets composted, composting is great, but even it is food produced for human consumption, it is still wasted food. Finally, how much we eat is also crucial. Many of us, especially in richer countries, tend to overeat, which is not only carbon intensive but also unhealthy. So eating as much as we need for a healthy life is a really good environmental as well as well-being related choice. And finally, we get to the leisure domain. Here, just like in the mobility domain, reducing driving and choosing car-free leisure activities are the most impactful lifestyle options. Now, you may be surprised that flying is not listed as the most impactful lifestyle option here. This is because, as explained earlier, the impacts we have just shown refer to an average person. And on average, in the 5 European countries, people don't fly a lot. In fact, about 30% of people in the European Union cannot even afford a 1-week-long holiday. However, if we do fly to go on holidays, reducing or giving up flying will have a big impact. For example, just one return flight between the capital of my home country, Budapest, and New York is 2.6 tons CO2 equivalent, so more than the target 1.5 degree compatible carbon footprint for 2030. This example shows that a lot depends on how exactly we live. So if we want to know what the most impactful options are in our own lifestyles, we need to examine our practices and learn about our own individual carbon footprint. For some help on this, and also on what else you can do outside these 4 domains, please check out our 1.5 degree lifestyles guide. To summarize, in this session, we have shown 1.5 degree lifestyle, or in other words, low carbon lifestyle options. We have looked at the impact of these options and which of them are the most impactful. And we have also discussed the difference between average impact and more specific individual impact. With this, even if you do not yet know your exact carbon footprint, you can actually start getting on the 1.5 degree lifestyle path right away, or continue your journey on this path.